Do you remember that game that we used to play back in middle school, even elementary school, when people would start copying you, saying the same thing as you over and over again, and you would just pretend like they didn't even exist, like wouldn't hear them, wouldn't even see them. So a couple weeks ago, we're sitting at the dinner table, and one of my older sons, man, he's just in mimic mode, and he's copying everything I say. And I'm just getting so annoyed. So I did what every good dad would do, is I started pretending like I couldn't see him. So I went through the rest of dinner just not even acknowledging that he's there, asking where he was at, if anyone had seen him. And I just watched him start to sink down in his chair. And I was annoyed, to be honest, so I kind of let it keep going. And probably 15 or 20 minutes after dinner, I still continued to walk past him, ask if anyone had seen him. And I watched my daughter just be crushed because I wouldn't see her brother. And so she came up and cuddled up on the couch by me and just weeping in tears and said, "Daddy, I know you can see him. I know you can see him. Stop being so mean." And at that point, man, my heart just crumbled and I caved in, and I went and gave my older son a big old hug, and I said, "All right, man, I'm sorry. I can see you. You're good." And when I think about that, it reminds me of a story in the book of Genesis. And if you guys know my wife at all and you've heard her speak, this is a text that she loves to unpack, and it's a great text, and it's about an Egyptian slave girl named Hagar. And so Hagar is given up by Pharaoh and given over to Abraham and to Sarah. And then the relationship with Sarah breaks down, and Sarah's given her over to Abraham to try to get pregnant so that they can have their next child. And then after that happens, then there's tension between Abraham and Sarah, and then Abraham gives up on her, and this woman is just in despair and feeling so desperate and so unwanted and unseen. And so it says that in the text that she runs away, she flees into the desert. And if you look at chapter 16, and starting in verse 7, it says, "The Lord found Hagar." He found her out in the middle of this desert. And I love just that symbolism of God is searching for the lost. He's searching for those that are far from him. His heart is for them. And so after he chases her down and he finds her, he talks to her. And it's interesting that all through the text in chapter 16, Hagar's always referred to as the slave girl, his slave, her slave, their slave. But God, when he speaks to her, he says, Hagar. And he approaches her and gives her the dignity by calling her by her first name. And God gives her this incredible promise. And he says in verse 10, "I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count." And this is all going to happen through the son that you're pregnant with right now, that you will name Ishmael. And what's awesome about the word Ishmael, the name Ishmael, is that translates to the God who hears. And so the God of the universe enters into Hagar's story, and he reminds her that he hears her prayers. He hears even her tears and her weeping. And it says, "The Lord has heard your misery." And then in verse 13, just this great verse, "She gave this name to the Lord who spoke to her." And Hagar says, "You are the God who sees me. Now I have seen the one who sees me." And she gives him this name, El Roi, E-L-R-O-I, El Roi, the God who sees. And so in the midst of all her despair, God steps into her story. He sees her. He hears her. And so friends, wherever you're at today, may you be reminded that we serve an incredible God who's not far from us. He's near. He knows you. He sees you. He hears you. And he's entered into your story if we will just acknowledge him. So friends, may you be seen this week. Be reminded of how loved you are by Jesus. And then may you go out and love and see others well. Grace and peace be with you.